good.
Did you get it? She's gonna come work for IT.
You should work for it. Oh, so good.
They're a good department. I would be lucky.
And, okay, I got you. There we go. Is he ready to go?
Yeah, I think we're. Should we start the?
Okay. Is it on? Let's see.
It's not recording yet. It's not recording yet.
No. Okay. Are we good? Are we good?
It's not recording.
Okay.
There it is.
There we go.
Okay, now we go. All right.
Okay. I'll call to order the committee of the whole. Meredith, would you please call the roll?
Alderperson Ackley?
Here.
Alderperson Bourne? Here. Alderperson Decker?
Here.
Alderperson Feldy?
Here.
Alderperson Filicki-Pineski? Alderperson Laster? She'll be late.
Okay.
Alderperson Mitchell?
And he's excused.
Alderperson Perella?
Here.
Alderperson Salazar?
Here.
Alderperson Savaglio?
Present.
There are 8 present.
Okay, we'll start out with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Alrighty, is there anyone here for public forum?
There is not this evening.
Okay. Alrighty, we'll go right on to 2.1, RC number 2122 by Finance and Personnel Committee, to whom was referred direct referral RO number 10-2122 by Director of Human Resources and Labor Relations, submitting the Internal Controls Assessment, City of Sheboygan, Benefits Administration Assessment dated April 19th, 2021, which was prepared by Clifton Larson Allen LLP, CLA, recommends the document be referred to the Committee of the Whole. Vicki?
Okay.
We'll start out with you, I guess.
All right, awesome. Scott, can you pull up the PowerPoint for me? Thank you. So I wanted to share with you a little bit of the background of how we got to this place today. Clifton Larson Allen provided an operational and organizational assessment for the City of Sheboygan's both the Finance and the Human Resources Department, and that was completed and presented to the Council in May of 2020. One of the telling pieces that they discovered was that the Human Resources team needed sound, present, and ongoing leadership. So unfortunately, that was not something that had been present for a number of years. So I want to walk you just through a little bit of the timeline, and this was what was shared with the Finance and Personnel Committee, just so you can understand the changes that have happened over the course of the last year and a half. As we just said, January of 2020, we had the assessment done by CLA, and Tara Dewey was hired as the Deputy Director of Finance. In February, the Director of HR and Labor Relations resigned at the end of February, and given that the Senior Center was closing or going down because of COVID, I had spoken with Daryl Hufflin to say that I could assist in any way that he thought was helpful, and he asked if I would then join as the interim director of HR, which I did gladly do. Then Governor Evers, the next day, actually, after I took that position as the interim, declared a state of emergency because of COVID. In April, the following month, Daryl Huffland announced his retirement. In May, then the council graciously approved me as the permanent director of HR and labor relations for the department. July 3rd was Daryl Huffland's last day as city administrator. That is when we got into a lot of the different changes that were happening within both finance and HR, that Todd Wolf became the city administrator, and his first day was July 7th. Within the week, we had strategic planning with the city administrator and the HR department. We had the retirement in July of the AP and purchasing assistant in the department. We had an accountant, payroll assistant was moved into the finance department. The auditor analyst position in finance became an accountant 2. We hired a clerk 2 in the HR department, and then we also released the clerk 1 at that time. So there was a lot of personnel changes in the month of July. We also started a payroll assessment by Baycor, which works closely with Munis, which is our ERP system. We were looking at improving our processes for how personnel changes were processed, and also to use Munis more fully. In August of 2020, the HR generalist was released at the beginning of that month. We hired Jessica Huss as the accountant 3. In October, Denise Clark joined as an HR generalist, and Chris Trecker, the finance admin services clerk, was hired. In November of 2020, Michael Herman, an accountant 1, was hired. The finance director resigned in the middle of the month, and Daniela Tainer-Partapillo was hired as our interim finance director. Unfortunately, then, in December of 2020, there were some anomalies that were discovered, and our benefits administrator was suspended with pay the middle of December, and after our internal investigation that Administrator Wolf and I and others were involved with, that the administrator was then released at the end of the year. So in January of 2021, a lot of the changes that continue to happen, and as a result of the changes of last year, Sandy Halverson again, I want to say that she should be commended for her leadership and sharing of her institutional knowledge. We would not have gotten through all the changes last year and the beginning of this year without her support. An accountant 2 retired from the finance department. We did vet a number of agencies to look at the benefits administration to do an audit, and CLA was chosen in March. And they came in, and obviously the report that is in front of you. April of 2021, our admin services clerk 1 was released. Christina Luptow, who was in the HR department, was promoted into the finance department as an accountant 2. Tara Dewey, as the deputy director, then announced her resignation, which was effective May 21st. We did have anticipated start dates for the finance director. Caitlin Krieger is on board, and then HR admin assistant. Unfortunately, one of the HR generalists did not come. So looking at the audit that is again in front of you, on page 4 of that audit lists the items that we as the city identified as items that needed to be investigated. And so those are listed here on this slide as well as on that page. So I want to be clear that CLA was not looking for something, nor did they come outside of the purview of Administrator Wolf and myself asking them to come in, because there were so many concerns that we felt that we needed another set of eyes looking at our processes. So to just go through the list with you, we had anomalies with the short-term and long-term disability. There was the application or inconsistent application of spousal surcharge waivers. The application of HSA payments to retirees was discovered. The inappropriate application of HSA payments, I should say. There were manual overrides of specific prescriptions. Again, the incorrect or inappropriate administration of short-term disability benefits. There was the potential of chamber cash being purchased and used inappropriately. The distribution and receipt of gift cards and other personal benefits, as city employees are not to receive gifts of any kind. The police and fire sick bank management and monitoring is an ongoing concern as well. And then, obviously, the inconsistent application and policies and practices within the Human Resources Department as well as Benefits Administration. So wanted you also to know that Administrator Wolf and myself are on the same page regarding the transparency and expectations of what the Human Resources Department should provide for not only the employees, but the city and the residents of Sheboygan. We wanted to make sure that you were cognizant of this report. We have started doing immediate, and actually before this report came out, that the comptroller responsibilities have moved over to Administrator Wolf. Our banking controls are being clarified and policies are being implemented to make sure that those separations are complete. We're working diligently with a group of folks, Carrie Ahrens, the payroll department, members of HR, to separate the payroll function and access from human resources because we had overlapping responsibilities. And as a result of that, Sandy Halverson, who had reported to me, now reports to Administrator Wolf. We're out, I just went through the payroll project with Baycor, so that should be completed by August or September of this year. Again, we're working with our insurance brokers, which is USI, to mitigate any future overrides to make sure that this cannot happen again. Our employee handbook is going through an entire rewrite to make sure that we are compliant and have clear expectations. A code of conduct will be embedded in the new handbook with an annual sign-off for all employees. A whistleblower program is being established. We're working with CIVMIC, our insurance carrier, our liability insurance carrier, to make sure that we are doing that appropriately. We have had 100% turnover in the Human Resource Department since January of 2020. And we continue to put the checks and balances in place to make sure that we can appropriately work with both the Human Resources and Finance Departments to assure you that we are doing things appropriately and above board. And then the implementation and utilization of Munis. So one of the things that happened was that going outside our software system allowed for some of these things to happen. And with the expectation that using Munis will create a trail, an audit trail, that can't happen again. So I leave you with this last slide, that this was our mission that we created as part of our strategic planning, that the Human Resources team of trusted professionals serves as strategic and operational partners, providing an inclusive, high-quality work experience for all employees. We are not here yet, but this is our stretch, this is our goal, and this is our expectations for where we will be in the months and years to come.
Thank you, Vicki, for that great review. I would like to just talk to the council a little bit and explain a few things. So when I first came into the city administrator's position, and even when I was interviewed for this position, one of the many things that I explained to the committee was the fact that I bring the business side, the other side of the fence, right? Not the municipal side. We are in what I call a company, and I refer to the city as almost like a global company within our community, because we have so many different facilities, we have so many different cultures, we have so many different processes and practices within our community. What I want you guys to please, and yes, I said you guys, make that one. I said you guys. So what I would like the council to remember is that we have a great community and team members. These problems in processes and practices are not events that happened within the last 6 months, the last 12 months, the last 18 months. These are processes and practices that have been broken for decades. This is a management problem. This is a problem where our city has not been managing at the level that it should have been. We can take it all the way back to, for many, many, many years. What I want the council to understand moving forward is that with new management comes change, right? Change is coming is one of my mantras. We are continuously bringing that change and bringing the city to the level of what it needs to be an employer of choice and have operations of excellence within our city and our community. We have to have good stewardship because we need to take care of not just our budgets from year to year, but our annual spending that we take care of for our constituents. We need to improve our processes so that we're spending our money. And as I've said with Mayor Sorensen, we need to be profitable so that we can take those profits and expand our services and expand the policies that we have in place. We have great people, and we have to remember that great people can only do what rules and regulations are and policies are in place. What you saw today, for many of us, are very, very scary, very, concerning. What we have to understand is because there were no policies and practices that were being managed and maintained by management, bad things happen, even with good people. We've addressed them, and we're continuing to expand on everything in every department throughout the city. But we also are bringing in other third parties because it's not just something when you see something, say something. It's, okay, why did it happen? When did it happen? What do we need to do to address it? So we have great people, and I support them. And as you can see through the timeline, there has been a lot of change. So as an employee once said, there's been more change in 10 months than in 10 years. Please understand that that change is going to continue. Have faith in the direction we're going, and believe it or not, we are going to be transparent, and we will bring these infractions, if any additional occur that we find, we will bring them forward as we improve the process. If you have any questions, please let Vicki and myself know. Thank you. Yes, Barb?
Is it the
Okay.
appropriate time to ask questions, or did you want to ask
Oh,
forward?
hang on a second, Barb. There it goes. Now, go ahead. Go ahead, Barb. Nope.
Is it okay to ask now, or would you like us to forward them to you?
No, I believe committee as a whole is to allow
Yeah.
for open discussion, open communication during this time period. So correct me if I'm wrong, Chair Decker, but
Yes.
at this time, it
Yes,
is
at this time, I will
appropriate
open up
to open up.
Yes,
Yep.
yes.
No, it's okay, we can share.
And I
Can I go then?
Go ahead, go ahead. You go.
Thank you.
Oh, you go.
All right. My first question is, I know this is a process and you're still working through it, but to date, have you found that the employee that was granting all of this stuff, it was purposeful or because of lack of training?
I think what I would, in my opinion, going back to bad management, we didn't have a true HR department for many, many years. And I think every department head would agree with that to some degree. The situation is that when you don't have policies and procedures that are defined, and you have no oversight, no separation of duties, as you've all heard me say, we have good people. So what happens is people tend to take on responsibilities and accountabilities, not realizing that they don't have that permission. When you also have a title of benefits administrator, the title alone tells vendors that they're the administrator of the benefits, right? That's a pretty high statement of just a title.
Right.
So if you have no definition of the title, you have no management to communicate to the vendor what ability, what access, what approval rating the employee has, and the management doesn't control it or manage it or audit it. We didn't have auditing either. Bad things can happen. So all of those items that I just touched on have all been adjusted. The vendors know exactly what the protocol is. The policies are being updated and reviewed, and the separation of duties is in place, actually. Did that answer your question?
No.
Okay.
Was it intentional, or just from lack of training that they, like you said, that they just thought that they had that power and could do it?
It's difficult to say what the intent was behind the actions. I think that, as Administrator Wolf just said, that there were opportunities that could be used that in a normal circumstance that someone would not have necessarily had the opportunity to do that. So there was an opportunity, but I don't know if it was through, it could be any number of reasons, whether it was neglect or inconsistency.
No training.
There was actually, that's true, a lack of training and a lack of oversight. So I can't answer that. I don't know what the intent was, Barb.
Okay, thank you.
All right, Marcus, Mark.
Thank you. Can we pull up the slide where it was the list of things that were concerning,
Sure.
please?
Yes.
I'm guessing that since we're talking about this, that you're already handling all of these things, but for how long these things were going on, do we have a number of how much this has cost the taxpayers, estimated?
The costs, we have not tallied the costs. The costs are more actually towards the employee in some circumstances, that employees were more harmed by this than the outright taxpayer, based on how these things were done.
If that's the case, are we going to dig into that further and make sure that we're not intentionally harming our employees moving forward and making restitution?
We've discussed that. We discussed that with the leadership team on the prior council, and it is my recommendation that we are not going to do that. We are going to basically, as some would say, turn a new leaf, start a new day, and move forward. Please understand that we have good employees, and not all employees are necessarily at fault. We can sit and say, yes, they are, because they should have known better. Some of these issues are what one could say is reductions in costs that they should have been paying. For us to go after the rest of the team for a decision that was made by one team member that's no longer with us, I don't feel that that's fair. Plus, we really don't need to cause a lot of strife within the city, because where do you draw the line? Yes, you may.
Thank you.
So I think also, because of the way that some of these challenges or anomalies happened, that a lot of the employees did not know, that they assumed that everything was taken care of in the way that it was supposed to be taken care of. And I don't think that there was any broad-based understanding that this is something that was going on within the department. I really don't believe that outside employees understood the ramifications.
Can I get one more question in, please?
Sure.
Thank you.
And then Amanda.
The chamber cash purchases and cash benefits and the distribution of gift cards or other personal benefits, how was that even, how did that happen? Was that caused by city dollars?
Well, it would happen because of a lack of policy and procedure, so definitely a lack of process. And as you know from both the prior CLA assessment and this current one, that the changes that had to happen in personnel, so that it was very easy to trust a request. It was very easy to trust that this is somebody who's always making a request for various things, and so it was just very easy to continue that practice without questioning it. And that's part of the, not that we don't want to not trust our employees, but there was no trail to say that that's not how this should happen normally.
So was there theft involved here of chamber cash or gift cards?
again, it's really difficult to say that it's deliberate in that way, that there is the opportunity and the opportunity for a lack of documentation that demonstrates where certain things went. So, for example, for the chamber cash, the city has a policy, or had a policy, we stopped that you would receive chamber cash as an employee if you went to a local, outside of the Aurora or Prevea, for example, for an MRI. So you could go to an outside provider that was intended to save money. So someone could go to this, get their MRI done, and as a bonus or as a benefit, you would receive $200 in chamber cash. What we discovered was that there were withdrawals or requests for checks to go to the chamber for chamber cash, but we cannot show that those dollars were actually distributed to the employees. That's where we're at.
The same with the gift cards also.
Yeah.
Gift cards back in the day, and again, part of the problem that we're talking about is this is the way we've always done it, which is something I really, really don't like to hear, because usually when I hear that, that means something is wrong. And gift cards, we don't, and our city attorney would also say that you can't give gift cards out unless you're hitting them with the tax. And obviously, we're not hitting anybody with the tax, so we weren't giving the cards out, but the cards disappear. So if we have no documentation, we have no way to follow up on who received, when they received them, and all of that. So again, these are very, very poor practices that have ceased to exist anymore. They are gone, and they are not happening any further.
Thank you.
Okay. Amanda?
Yep, great, thank you. So my question for you is, you've talked a lot about the policies and procedures inside of the mishaps that happen. I'm assuming you have a plan moving forward. When you say the team, are you training as HR, yourself, Todd? Or how are you training your directors? How is this process getting shared out to the employees so that they feel confident that you are doing the correct steps moving forward? Because they're the ones who sort of have suffered in this. So I just want to make sure that we're sort of sharing that message from the top all the way down, saying,
Correct.
We understand we made the misstep, here are the practices.
Correct. All of that training, as the policies are being updated and corrected, then training goes out accordingly. Department heads have been included in that if there were departments that were directly involved. Also, as the findings change, so as the policy, or as an example, let's say disability gets renewed, then those costs are reviewed with employees at that time, because everybody's a little bit different and unique in how this touches them. So this is being brought up and presented to the employees and department heads, and it's a long procedure, because these are things that we want to be careful and conscious that everybody's a participant in this, and we are trying to protect everyone. So the biggest takeaway is that our policies and procedures are for all, not just individual departments or individual people.
Sure.
It's, so when it comes to insurance or benefits, it's the same for all employees.
Right, but you also said that was a long process. I'm trying to make sure that everybody, all the way down to even part-time staff, are hearing consistently the same message.
Yes, they will.
Okay. Do you have a timeline on when you're?
Yeah, jump in.
So part of this discussion, that this is the public forum here for employees to hear this, we certainly know that with the dismissal of a very long-standing employee, that sent a message throughout the city. We certainly have known that the changes that have happened within the city, within the HR and finance departments, are making a difference, because it has, I guess, rattled the cage in the sense that everyone is aware of these changes happening. We have not tried to to conceal anything. It's been very transparent. So as we move forward, we've been in discovery mode for actually several months of finding, what else might be there. And we feel pretty confident that we've discovered just about everything that there is to find, based on the fact that we've lived 6 months through this process and we haven't found anything recent or new. The policies and procedures that will be going forward certainly are going to be things that we move forward with as a whole. Again, as Administrator Wolf said, that everyone will be obliged to sign off on them and to understand them. Again, that the handbook process, what is exciting about it is that will take the place of a lot of these one-off memos or policies that we had that were not necessarily well known. And so it will supersede everything that's happened before, and it will give us a clean slate to be able to say, from this point forward, all of these policies that are in our handbook are going to precede anything else that's out there. So we can start with that clean slate, so there aren't any misunderstandings about what the policy is or what the practice is. And it won't belong just to one person to enforce that. It is a team effort. And I think that is very much known within the finance and human resources departments, that we are working together as a team, that the culture, I don't know how to describe it except to say that the culture is so different than when it was even a year ago. It's so much better. It's so much more open. It's so much more in a learning environment that people want to do the right thing. And we've hired good people.
So the handbook has been implemented already?
The handbook is in its second or third draft right now, and so we are working through that. Our previous handbook was from 2016, and prior to that, it was 2011 or 2012, so it hadn't really been well revised. So this handbook is being done outsourced again through our insurance brokers to be compliant with all policy, all laws, and that we will be expecting and presenting this to all the employees so that they will hear it directly from the HR team, that this is a new day.
Great, thank you.
Jim, we'll put you in here next.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just to expand a little bit on what Barb was talking about before, in the old days when I was raised, a situation like this was called stealing. And that's to me is what it was. And I heard from an employee this morning who I respect. I've known her for many years. She's been with the city for many years. And she said that, this kind of a situation can tend to be divisive as far as the city employers are concerned. And I really think there should be an audit if there hasn't been an audit done as part of CLA, I think there should be an audit on exactly how much of the $1,200 was given out to employees who shouldn't have gotten it. And I don't necessarily agree that because it was, in my mind, stealing, many of these employees should have known that they shouldn't have got a pass in the $1,200. So I'm hoping you're going to go further on that, and at least investigate that. Also, another concern of mine was that people that have retired recently, and I don't know, we want to go back 5 years, 10 years, whatever the case may be, with the lack of policies to determine whether people were getting the proper amount from the Wisconsin Retirement Fund, whether they were retiring with the amount credit for the amount of vacation they had or other benefits you retire with from the city. Do you think there's an audit that's required to go back and adjudicate and look at the employees that have retired, pick out a number of years, 5 years, and see? I'm just as concerned about the people who are probably not getting enough as to maybe people that are getting more than they should have. Do you think there's an audit necessary to go back and check on that?
Well, Alder Boren, you bring up some really good points, and the hardest part about this whole situation is where do you dig and how deep do you dig, and how much money do you spend when you've already lost some funds? And then you have to step back from there and say, okay, we can spend a lot of money looking for what some may think is a lot of money, and then how do you get that money back, and then how many people does it touch, and how big a problem do you really have? What I really would like to point out is the fact that some of these areas, because we have good employees. We have to remember we have good people that work for the city. And I tend to use examples a lot. How many times have you gone to the grocery store and you buy something and you realize, oh, they didn't charge me for this? How many people run back to the store and actually say, oh, by the way, you forgot to charge me for this? Or you're at a restaurant and they forget to charge you for a beverage or an appetizer or something. Things happen. Now with the city, it's a lot different, and I understand that. That doesn't mean that every employee necessarily understood exactly what benefits they were being given, because a benefit is something that you are receiving that somebody is giving you. And if they're giving it to you, you don't necessarily run around and say, oh, by the way, Mr. Bourne, did you get this because I got this? Or Mr. Decker, did you get this because I got this? Again, we don't do all of that. The issue is that we can dig to a certain degree and we can find out certain things, like the retirement piece. We did look into that. We want to make sure that our retirees are getting what they need and that they're not getting additional benefits that they should be getting or shouldn't be getting. And we've done our due diligence on that because part of it is our OPEB report and making sure that our liabilities are accurate. And that's a very serious report. And even with that report, we have some deficiencies on that we've obviously turned up, and we're working on that moving forward. As far as going back to say, 5 years ago you didn't pay for this, or 2 years ago you didn't pay for that, it would take a lot of time, money, and it would cause a lot of strife, in my opinion, within our city, within our company. And is it really worth the benefit? Is that money really worth going and digging into to find out that somebody got something that somebody else didn't? My recommendation to the Leadership Council in our prior council was that we need to move forward. We have policies and procedures that are going into place. We have due diligence. We have separation of duties. These situations happen in other municipalities. We've talked with CIVMIC, our insurance carrier, and this happens more than any of us want to hear. It happens to other cities, other communities, and that's why we are being due diligent in digging up everything we can, and we've even asked for best practices. What other areas have we not looked into that maybe we should be? So we are doing our due diligence and moving forward, and I get it. Not everybody got the benefit of whatever that benefit was, but it doesn't make sense, in my opinion, to cause a lot of strife within our community. We have bigger things to fix moving forward. Thank you.
Another concern is that I saw during the report was the sick bank for the fire department. Was that discussed at all during the recent contract negotiations, or wasn't the bargaining team, the city's bargaining team, aware of that situation? And then, do you think an audit is needed to get the proper value on that and hopefully work something out with the fire union? And I guess the same thing could be said for the police department sick leave pool. I know there was some issues with that. Where are we with that, and what do you recommend we do?
Alderborn, that's a very good point, and that is still on our list of many things that we are working on. No, Director of HR and union negotiations. Obviously, we found out about this in end of December?
It was after the negotiations.
Yeah, after negotiations, at the end of the year, the fire department came to Vicki and said, oh, by the way, we have, what was it, 26 days?
Yeah, there were some days that were noted. So this was discovered through a communication with the fire department that they were making a notification to the Human Resources Department that 26 days of the communal pool had been used. And I had to ask for an explanation because I hadn't known there was anything outside their own individual sick pools. And then that was when I learned that there was a communal pool that employees could pull from if they had already exhausted all their other days. So that led to conversation, and again, we started to dig in. What does this mean? What is the value of it? Where does this exist? And it exists in the historical documents of the fire department. that it has been, there's a clear path that this has been in place since about 1985, that this practice has been in place.
Back to the 1960s when it's.
Right, so the practice itself as firefighters were able to contribute to a sick bank. Once they hit a limit, it would go into their communal pool. And again, that was, on my part, I did not know that that existed, and I did not understand the significance of that, nor did I understand the magnitude at that point of how large that communal pool is or was. And that is something that, again, through the audit, we explored that, and that is something that we are going to continue to work through because we need to put a value on it. As Administrator Wolf mentioned, there's an OPEB report, which is meant to quantify our liability as far as what are other benefits that retirees would receive. And so we need to quantify that so that we have that liability noted. And that was an area that had never been quantified in past audits or past documentation. And we need to do that going forward as well.
If I could have one more, Mr. Chairman?
Well, we're running late, and I have a couple more.
All right,
if
go
you
ahead.
don't mind. Thank you. I'm going to go to Roberta.
Oh, thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I heard two things in the process of not the discussion, but the presentation. The first was we were going outside of the software system, and that was possibly one of the reasons that caused all the issues.
Yes.
And you talked about with the advent of Munis, that would be alleviated. Is Munis up and running for the HR department, or do we have to wait longer for Munis to be up and running?
So we are working through, so we use a portion of the HR components of Munis, and we have always done that for the past, I would say, 8 years or so. The benefits module is one that we had not used, or we had used it about 3 years ago, and then we stopped using it. And I don't understand exactly why that decision was made. But we are going to be using it this year. And so we are, as a team, have worked with Munis, and there's PACE dollars, which is the education that our team will receive. And that's scheduled for 2 days in July. That's going to be intensive training on how to use that. We just had a conversation with our brokers earlier today that they are able to assist us in not only doing the open enrollment for all employees, but they will also then be able to assist us in getting that information directly into Munis so that we don't have to worry about not having that in place. So one of the things that happened, just so for your own understanding, is that there was a lot of use of Excel spreadsheets instead of, and manual spreadsheets instead of using the system. And so it was very easy to take information and manipulate it in a different kind of way rather than using the system that everyone has access to.
Okay, thank you.
I just wanted to expand on that. I've explained to the council for many months that we've had Tyler Munis for many years. And again, with no oversight and no upper management direction, modules have been turned on, turned off, and we haven't been utilizing the system to its fullest. Moving forward, and I believe I said this last year, in 2021, we are implementing not just the upgrade, but we're actually implementing the modules and purchasing additional modules to make the city more efficient. And through that efficiency, we're going to actually have the separation of duties. We're actually going to have the ability that when people go in and make a transaction or make an adjustment, that they're tagged. We know who did it, when it was done, and why it was done. And again, it's not to harm employees, it's to help protect employees.
Okay, the other thing I heard the software system Munis, and I heard the ability to override and the insurance. Are we okay with our insurance carriers? Are they helping? Are they
Yes, our insurance
concerned?
carriers have been stellar, and we had a new team that joined us, and they have been instrumental in helping us get through this. When we were first going through this in December and January, I had daily, sometimes multiple times a day, conversations about what was going on and how they would be able to help us. They have been very upfront about giving us the reports that we need, the processes that we need to put into place, and knowing that, again, we have the relationships so that this cannot happen again. So again, the way that this happened was that there were underlying or separate relationships beyond the normal protocols. And so we have practices in place now that can't happen without another set of eyes seeing that and then coming back to the city to say, is this right? Is this normal? Is this what you intended to do? And they've received these reports themselves. They've been part of the audit process themselves, and they're very cognizant about everything that we've been going through.
Great, thank you.
Grazia?
Yes, I do also share the concern that employees may have lost benefits that they may come back to the city for. I mean, I don't know if there is any legal possibility of that to happen. So I share the concern that other person, Boren and Savaglio mentioned. But actually, my question is for the future. What is the plan for auditing, and who would do that? How often?
Can you say the question again? I'm sorry.
What is the plan about auditing the processes? I'm not talking about financial auditing, about auditing the processes from now on for...
And thank you. We've actually put in dual approval systems in place. So not only like as far as HR-related items, Vicki and like a generalist would be actually auditing each other. In payroll, we have multiple people actually auditing each other, and then they get audited. We can pull reports to make sure I'm actually receiving like a lot of the billings so that I can review it and ask questions why things fluctuate like they do. So we have multiple department heads and team members in place so that we're keeping each other in check month to month, not letting things, go downstream.
To follow up.
So Grazia, I can also share that one of the things that's been instrumental, as I shared earlier in one of the slides, was the personal change notifications. And so we established a process so that if there was a pay increase, if there was a change in classification, if there was a job change, a title change, all of that has to be documented and uploaded, and it goes through a set of approvals. We're looking at, obviously, the work between the Human Resources and Finance departments so that we can assure each other, and that, of course, that everything goes through Administrator Wolf right now to make sure that we're doing the right things at the right time in the right way. So for payroll, there's a payroll audit that happens. For any kind of retiree benefit now, we just met again today that there's a lot of work in process to get these things in place so that not just one person is controlling this, that it has to go through a set of either permissions through the software system so that money or those dollars can't be released without another person's oversight. And that's where the finance department is going to be crucial in how we establish those differences and changes.
So I understand with all the corrective actions you have put in place, but who is going to audit that those are actually working? And I understand that you may audit each other, but what I'm seeing is that there must be some type of assessment, preferably external, maybe in the beginning on an annual basis, or maybe every other year, but there must be a way to actually audit that the process that you are putting in place right now as new processes are actually working.
So you're talking about having CLA or another outside auditing firm coming, because I do believe that would be something that, based on the experience that we've had, that we would continue to do this on an annual basis, because that is one of the recommendations from CLA as well, is that there is an annual benefits audit or, this timeliness so that we're not, yes, we're watching ourselves, but we're also inviting others in so that we are as transparent as we can be.
Right.
So that would be
yes.
either CLA or another auditing firm that we would be working with.
Yes, and I know that the recommendation was for a fraud assessment, risk assessment. Again, I think that since you are changing processes, because we said that this was an issue with processes, this was an issue with management, this was an issue with lack of oversight and so on. So what I'm talking about is assessment of the new processes. I mean, it's fantastic what you're saying and the good intentions, and there are good employees, no doubt, but there will be a need for assessing your changes.
And Grazia, we will be budgeting for future to have audits done on a regular basis. And I agree with you. One of the things that we had asked for from CLA was giving us best practices. So it's not that we have to create where we need to be. They are telling us what we need to do to be able to be the most efficient and effective at our policies and procedures. So once we have that, we'll be able to have them come in and do an audit. And it wouldn't make sense unless we did it like in at least, a year and a half from now, because of the cycle time that it's going to take to have everything implemented and a cycle of our insurance and benefits going through. But that is something that I'm actually very strongly requesting, because of the fact that we need somebody to help keep us in check. Because you can have all the policies in the world, but if you don't audit and you don't actually check your audits and review your audits, you don't have a policy.
Thank you.
Mayor Sorensen.
Thank you. I told Vicki and Todd I was going to do this if they didn't do it. But I do just want to underline, they shrug. I just wanted to underline the fact that this audit was completed and done primarily because of Todd and Vicki's excellent work in asking questions and digging in and fixing the issues that have been ignored or allowed to occur for the many years. I keep saying they don't give themselves enough credit for digging in, getting their hands dirty, and starting to identify the problems. And instead of leaning back and ignoring them, they leaned in, they asked questions, they got their hands dirty, they said, why is this happening this way? They challenged the status quo, and they got a lot of stuff done. And identifying where the issues were, I think that foundationally needs to be the focal point of where we start. So I just wanted to commend them and their work on that, and just making sure that the council knows too, moving forward in the future, this needs to be a big lesson for all of us. And I appreciate the discussion and questions that are happening today too. But I mean, the buck really stops with the council and the city leadership as well, in making sure that we're asking the proper questions, that we're getting involved, that we're saying, hey, why do we do it this way? And if someone says, oh, we've always done it this way, you're identifying those patterns, and you're saying, okay, well, wait a minute, give me some more thought of why we do it this way and why it's always been done that way, or how can we do things more efficiently? How can we make sure that taxpayer dollars are being respected? So I thank Vicki and Todd for their work on this. I know it's been pretty time consuming, but I have full faith in both of them in getting a handle of this moving forward. But it's not just them alone. It's city staff, it's department heads, but it's also the council members to making sure that we're doing our part on this. So those are just the comments I wanted to add.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you, Mayor. We're really running short, Barb. Is it something quick? You had your microphone on? Did you? We're.
That I know I'm going to get help. I'm going to get hit with. The spousal surcharge was a little over $1,200 per month, and if I'm understanding all of this right, they've kicked some of that for some, but not for others. And I did a little multiplication. We're talking $14,000 plus per year for that spousal surcharge. Am I right? I mean,
That would be approximately, yes, where you're right. That
Right.
It's $1,200 a year, so there's two different things that the city offers. The spousal surcharge is if your spouse has insurance at.
I understand that part.
Okay, they would pay an additional $1,200 to be on the city's insurance if their spouse had insurance elsewhere. If you
year?
opt out, you get $100 per month. So it's $1,200 total. And then if you are opting out of the city's insurance, you also, you can't have one, you can't have both. But if you opt out of insurance, you also could get $100 a month for taking insurance elsewhere.
Okay, thank you.
I do want to point out, though, we have over 300 employees that are
On insurance?
on insurance, about 330 employees on insurance. Other companies, corporations, actually pay companies to take care of like spousal surcharge. Why do I say that? Because what you need to do is not just fill out a sheet saying, yes, my spouse has insurance or doesn't have insurance, but typically they actually have to follow up and find out from the company. So just because I would say my spouse doesn't have insurance capability, somebody should be following up and auditing that to make sure that it's factual. That's part of that's what didn't happen.
Yeah.
So, okay?
Yep, good.
Real quick one, Jim, we're really running.
It's gonna be real quick.
You're right.
First of all, there was about, I think, four, I've got them listed here, I'm not gonna read them, I don't have time, but there was a number of forensic audits that were recommended by CLA. Are we gonna go ahead with those forensic audits on the various ones they're recommending? And then my second question is, rather than have this report, collect dust and we don't pay attention to it, are your intentions to give quarterly or semi-annual reports like you're doing with the audit from the finance department, going ahead for the finance and personnel committee, that we're gonna get regular updates as to what's going on?
Vicki and I have talked about quarterly updates, and she's been doing that since she took the position. So we will be updating everybody on a quarterly basis on our improvements and where we're going.
Can I just say one thing to that too? So I'll be real quick. That part of our presenting this to you is to get the recommendations from the council so that we can move ahead with what we need to be able to do to be successful, because we can't do this alone.
Could you put these 4 or 5 audits that are being requested by CLA, could you put those on the agenda of the Finance and Personnel Committee, and maybe give your pros and cons of doing each audit, and let the council have some input on whether we do those or not?
We can do that.
Thank you.
Okay. So, do you want do we want to do a recommendation with that, or do we want to go forward with, do we want to make a motion to send something to the council, or send it to Finance and Personnel? Do you want to make a motion, something like that, Jim? Is that what you're looking for?
I'll make a motion that the Finance and Personnel Committee get quarterly reports on the progress of the CDL recommendations, and also that the items that were pointed out for forensic audits, that those specific items go to the Finance and Personnel Committee, and have Todd and Vicki give their pros and cons on whether we should go ahead with those specific forensic audits.
Okay. Okay, we have a motion and second. Does anyone have any discussion on that at all? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Chair votes aye. That is approved. Okay, I guess that wraps things up. I just wanted to make one quick comment on this. I'm very pleased with the openness of this. I mean, that's one thing that I've been disappointed in the past with when we had the problems with the finance department and things like that coming forward. We were kind of left in the dark a lot, and this is what I like to see, openness, that this is brought forward. Sometimes it's not always pleasant to see the bad things that have gone on, but it's necessary, and I'm just glad that we've done that. I would entertain a motion to adjourn from someone then. Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Aye. We are adjourned.
Thank you.
It's kind of. All right, I will call the Common Council meeting to order for the 5th regular meeting. Will the clerk please say the quote of the day?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Communication works for those who work at it.
All right, would you call the roll as well?
Alderperson Ackley.
Here.
Alderperson Bourne. Here. Alderperson Decker.
Here.
Alderperson Feldy.
Here.
Alderperson Falicki-Peneski.
Here.
Alderperson Laster. Here. Alderperson Mitchell.
Excused?
Alderperson Perella. Here. Alderperson Salazar.
Here.
Alderperson Savaglio.
Present.
There are 9 present.
All right, for everyone in attendance, would you please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Is there a motion to approve the minutes from a previous meeting?
I move to approve.
Second? There's been a motion second. Any further discussion on the minutes from our previous meeting? Seeing none, all those in favor, please state aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Minutes are approved. Anyone for public forum today, clerk?
There is no one.
All right. 5.1, mayor appointments, various, city attorney. Oh, sorry.
Like to come up. The mayor has the following appointments for your consideration to the Board of Marina Parks and Forestry Commissioners, Marilyn Montemayor as the Plan Commission representative. To the Joint Review Board, Mayor Ryan Sorensen as the city representative, Mark Belkey as the representative from the school district, Roy Cluse from Lakeshore Technical College, Roger Testruti, county representative, Roberta Falicki-Peneski, public representative. To the Library Board, Andre Walton. To the Mayor's International Committee, Tony Romer, Deidre Martinez, Peter Jansen, Deb Sable-Williams, Dana Elmsen, and Nick Laurie.
All right, those will lay over. 6.1, confirmation of mayor's appointments. City attorney.
Submitting the following appointments for your consideration to the Zoning Board of Appeals, Nancy Maring. To the Housing Rehab Loan Commission, Andre Walton. To the Board of Marina Parks and Forestry Commissioners, John Kaler, Rebecca Clark, Marge Mattern. To the Board of Review, Kathleen Donovan. To the Historic Preservation Commission, Carolyn Lee. To the Mayor's International Committee, Carolyn Miesfeld, Rich Miesfeld, Dane Schaefer. And to the Sheboygan Transit Commission, Alderperson Trey Mitchell, Alderperson Barb Feldy, Alderperson Dean Decker.
All right. Is there a motion to confirm those appointments?
I move to confirm.
There's been a motion second. This is a roll call vote.
I'm working on it.
Nine ayes.
All right. 7.1, confirmation of mayor's appointments. City attorney.
Mayor submitted the following appointment for your consideration. Alderperson Leslie Laster, District 8, to be considered for appointment to the Licensing, Hearings, and Public Safety Committee to fill the unexpired term of Ryan Sorensen, whose term expires April 18, 2022.
I move to confirm.
Second.
Motion second. This is again a roll call vote.
Eight ayes, 1 abstain.
All right, that's approved. All right, 1.8 is a presentation by our Senior Services Director, Emily Rendell Arajo. So Emily, come on down.
Thank you, Mayor Sorensen. Thank you for pronouncing my name so well. No one gets it that well. Hi, everyone. I'm here this evening to share with you our new brand for the Senior Activity Center of Sheboygan. A few months ago, some members of the Senior Services Commission and the Friends of the Senior Activity Center started the process of going through a formal rebrand. But this conversation has been going on for 5+ years, probably. Our own alderperson, Felicki Pineski, conducted some focus groups 5 years ago that identified that our membership was not happy with the name Senior Activity Center of Sheboygan, often abbreviated to SACS. They also don't enjoy being called seniors. Some other issues with the existing name of Senior Activity Center of Sheboygan were that there's a lot of confusion with other organizations in town. Nursing homes, rehab facilities, most specifically Sheboygan Senior Community out on Highway Y, for which we receive calls about once a week, and they receive calls for us about once a week. So our goals when setting out on determining a new name, a new brand to go along with our new building on North 8th Street was that we would have a unique name that would not be confused with any other organization and would accurately reflect the population that we serve, which are adults 55 plus, that are independent and active and still have a lot of life left to serve this community. So our new name, members of the Friends and the Commission worked together with Dynamic Agency through the rebrand process. The Friends of the Senior Activity Center are paying for this $25,000 to include the name, the logo, and a new website. And Scott, if you want to pull up our new name. So the name that we agreed on and was voted and approved on by the Friends and the Commission last month is Uptown Social, with the tagline, Sheboygan's Hub for Active Seniors. So if we look at the next slide, we'll see the new logo. We're very excited. We think this accurately reflects the population that we're serving. The seniors that have been involved in the process feel strongly about the name. They're very excited to not have to come to the SACS. And we're also excited with the possibility of abbreviation. Uptown Social abbreviates to us, and so we plan to have a lot of fun with our marketing terms. Using us and Uptown Social. And so our intent is later this month, we will be sharing this information at the annual meeting of the Friends of the Senior Activity Center, and going from there as we prepare for our new building. I know you have a lot on your agenda, so if anyone wants to follow up with me separately, I'm always available, and I brought a giveaway for everyone.
Duck goose.
That's probably a first. Thank you.
All right. Any other questions for Emily at all?
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Emily. All right, now we'll do 1.9 Mayor's announcements. All right, good evening, everybody. Thanks for being here this Monday evening. I'm going to keep it relatively quick because we do have a long day and we've got a long agenda. So I'm just going to jump right into it, do some proclamations. So this is the fun part. All right, so first one, I'll read both of them out to you. First proclamation, whereas President Abraham Lincoln signed the Emancipation Proclamation on January 1st, 1863, declaring the slaves in the Confederate territory officially free, paving the way for the passing of the 13th Amendment, which formally abolished slavery in the United States of America. And whereas word about getting the signing of the Emancipation Proclamation was delayed by some 2.5 years to June 19th, 1865, in reaching authorities and African Americans in the South and Southwest in the United States. And whereas on June 19th has been a special meeting to the African American community and is officially called Juneteenth, combining the words of June and 19th, and is the oldest known public celebration of the end of slavery in the United States. And whereas Juneteenth commemorates African American freedom and celebrates the success gained through education and greater opportunity. And whereas on a larger scale, celebration of Juneteenth reminds each and every one of us the promise of freedom, equality, and opportunity are at the core of the American dream. Now, therefore, I, Ryan Sorensen, Mayor of the City of Sheboygan, do hereby proclaim June 19th, 2021 as Juneteenth Day. And I would present this proclamation to Pastor Michael Thomas, and as well as other members of the Black American Community Outreach. So if you want to come on up. Present you this proclamation on behalf of the city, and if you'd like to say a few words.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
As the president of the Black American Community Outreach, I would like to say thank you to Mayor Ryan, to the City Common Council. Lots of people say that they care and they say that they should support, and then there are those who actually show that they care and show that they support, and I think that this is a great show, and so we at the Black American Community Outreach are going to do our best to continue to uplift the entire community in which we live in, and I hope that you all will come out on June 19th and celebrate Juneteenth Day with us. Thank you very much. God bless you all. Anybody willing to volunteer? All right, thank you. Take a step back so we can get everyone in here.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Appreciate you all.
All right, next one. Whereas Sheboygan County, the city of Sheboygan is a community full of diversity, and whereas the city of Sheboygan recognizes the importance of equality and freedom, and whereas we as a nation have come a long way since the Stonewall riots in 1969, and whereas the movement towards equal rights for lesbians, gays, bisexual, transgender people still carry on with so much more progress to be made. And whereas everybody should be able to live free without fear of prejudice, discrimination, violence, or hatred based on who they are as a person, and whereas the city of Sheboygan is dedicated to fostering a community of acceptance regardless of one's sexual orientation or gender identity, and whereas June is celebrated as LGBTQ+ Pride Month all over the globe, and now therefore I, Ryan Sorensen, Mayor of the City of Sheboygan, do hereby proclaim June 2021 as LGBTQ+ Pride Month. And I will present this proclamation to the Sheboygan County LGBTQ Alliance. So Carolyn, come on up, and other members of the Alliance, come on up as well.
Mayor, thank you so much. The Sheboygan County LGBTQ Alliance exists to raise awareness of the diversity of the LGBTQ community, address the needs of our queer residents, build solidarity and allyship, and support action for intersectional justice. We envision a community that is welcoming, safe, and informed. 2 days ago, the Alliance hosted Sheboygan's second annual Pride celebration, virtually this year, and we heard personal stories and messages from a series of local LGBTQ+ residents. I hope many of you were able to tune in, but if you weren't, you can find the recording on our Facebook page. One of the major projects of the Sheboygan County LGBTQ Alliance is organizing a comprehensive LGBTQ resource guide, something that has never been done in Sheboygan County. And in addition to that, we're focused on outreach to employers, educators, healthcare providers, and community leaders so that we can be more responsive and proactive in addressing the needs of our community. We're really excited about what's to come, and though we're still an all-volunteer, community-based organization, we want to evolve into the go-to local resource for LGBTQ community members and our allies. I'll just close by saying progress can often seem slow or difficult to measure, but it means something to have formal public support of the queer community at the city leadership level. I can tell you, having been privileged to be the officiant of the first legal same-sex marriage in Sheboygan County 7 years ago this week, and also now to have the honor to represent the Sheboygan County LGBTQ Alliance as its chair, tonight represents progress. And here tonight with me are Jamie Lammers and Kate Kraus, two of the co-founders of the Sheboygan County LGBTQ Alliance. And I know that each of us has experienced real setbacks and discrimination as members of the local queer community. This won't be the last time you'll see the Alliance in these chambers as we continue to push for full equality for the LGBTQ community in Sheboygan. And so while there's still a lot of work to do, We're really pleased to join you tonight to celebrate progress. Thank you. Thank you. Thanks again.
Thanks, everyone. And for folks, you don't have to stay for this part too, so you're excused, unless you want to stay.
Oh, come on.
Yeah. All right, we'll jump right onto the consent agenda. 2.1, is there a motion to receive and file all ROs and receive all RCs and adopt the resolutions?
I
President Feldman?
move to receive all and file all ROs, receive all RCs, and adopt all resolutions and ordinances.
Second,
There's been a motion second. Any discussion on the consent agenda?
I have one.
Go ahead, Roberta.
I would like to have an explanation for 2.2. We are being asked to authorize licensing, and I read the document, and the licenses have already been granted. Can we know why?
You're not being asked to authorize them. They are being reported to you as is required by ordinance. So what you're doing is receiving the document and as the licenses have been granted.
Perfect, thank you.
Any other discussion on any items from the consent agenda? All right, this is a roll call vote, so please check your board docs.
Yeah,
I'm asleep.
well, it keeps going out.
Okay. Thank you.
Did you get yours? Yeah. There it is.
Nine ayes.
All right. Report of Officers, 3.1, RO number 212122, by the City Plan Commission, to whom was referred Resolution number 9-21-22 by Alderpersons Mitchell and Perella, approving the capital improvements program as recommended by the Capital Improvements Commission for the program period from 2022 to 2026, and adopting the program for implementation, which is to report that this matter was discussed at the regular meeting of the City Plan Commission on April 25th, 2021, and after due consideration recommends adopting the resolution. Alderperson Perella?
So I move to adopt the resolution?
Yep. Is there a second?
Second,
Motion and second. Any further discussion? Alderperson Boren?
Thank you, Mayor. City Administrator Wolf, could you tell us, I believe it's going to be about $3.1 million in capital improvements, and what the breakdown is going to be between borrowing and fund balance?
Thank you, Alder Bourne. With this upcoming program and capital improvements, we are looking to borrow $2 million in GO bonding, and we are looking to utilize $1,045,000 in general funding.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions from alders? City Administrator, any additional comments on this item?
Thank you, Mayor. I guess what I would like to bring forward is that this program, which is quite different than what we've presented in past for those of us that have been through capital improvements. To me, this was a very streamlined process for 2022. It also keeps us within the guidelines that I've brought forward to the council, where we need to continuously review the amount of debt that we incur in the future years. We need to start utilizing some of our general fund balance, and being better stewards in our borrowing practices. So this takes advantage of all of that. It keeps us within $2 million borrowing, and it also is utilizing $1,045,000 of general fund. And please understand that from 2020, we rolled over in excess of $1,200,000 plus dollars in round numbers. So really, this is net neutral. From that perspective, we're not actually pulling out of the pool. We're actually just using $1,045,000 of the rollover. Thank you.
Any additional questions on this item? This is a roll call vote then.
Nine ayes.
All right, items 3.2 through 3.6 will be referred to various committees. 4.1 through 4.7 will additionally be referred to committees as well. Reports of committees. 5.1 RC number 3521-22 by the Finance and Personnel Committee, to whom was referred resolution number 10-21-22 by Alderpersons Mitchell and Flicky-Pineski, authorizing a budget adjustments for the appropriations in the 2021 budget regarding the MyCivic Citizen Engagement System software system, and recommends adopting the resolution. Alderperson Flicky-Pineski.
I move that we adopt the resolution.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second. Is there any discussion on this item? Any comments from the city administrator on this item?
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to thank everybody for the support on this MyCivic. MyCivic is going to be a great addition to to our city. It'll basically give us an app where we will be able to actually communicate outwards, and our constituents will be able to communicate better inwards into the city. So it's not just a 311 where people can basically report a pothole, because that never happens, or other issues within the city. It's more of the fact that we can push information out to the constituents, but it's also going to be a hub, as we've all been presented, where we'll be able to actually have, the city's website connection. We'll be able to have DPW. In the future, we're hoping to be able to get our restaurants and our downtown district to actually have a link in there where they can click on it, and it'll take them to the many wonderful restaurants that we have within our community and other features. So this is the beginning. It's also going to be able to assist us in our upcoming strategic plan in communicating with our constituents. So thank you for your support.
Any additional comments? Seeing none, this is a roll call vote.
Nine ayes.
All right. 5.2 RC number 362122 by the Licensing Hearings and Public Safety Committee, to whom was referred General Ordinance number 3-21-22 by Alderpersons Feldy, Ackley, and Decker, amending the municipal code so as to temporarily reduce fees for sidewalk cafes, and recommends adopting the ordinance. Alderperson Feldy.
I move to receive the RC and adopt the ordinance.
Second.
There's been a motion and second. Any discussion on this item? Seeing none, this is a roll call vote.
Nine ayes.
All right, that is approved. Items 6.1 through 6.6 will be referred to various committees. 7.1, other matters authorized by law, city attorney.
7.1 is an RO by the city clerk submitting various license applications for the period ending December 31, 2021, April 14, 2022, June 30, 2022, and June 30, 2023.
All right, and that will be referred to the Licensing Hearings and Public Safety Committee. All right, number 8, we have a contemplated closed session. Alderperson Feldy?
I move to convene in closed session under the exemption provided in section 19.851E, Wisconsin statute, for the purpose of discussion related to a possible development incentive regarding the former Shopko store located at 518 South Taylor Drive, where competitive and bargaining sessions require closed session. And under the exemption provided in section 19.851G, Wisconsin statutes, for the purpose of discussion related to possible litigation related to the termination of one or more city employees, where legal counsel will render oral advice concerning strategy to be adopted by the body with respect to litigation in which it is likely to become involved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, there's been a motion and second. This is a roll call vote to convene in closed session.
Nine ayes.
All right, we'll convene in closed session in about 2 minutes then. So everyone from the public, please. We will not be coming back into open session, so this will conclude our meeting for the day. Do we want to meet in here or in the?
I mean, you can meet it.
We'll stay.
Said 5.1.